This video also marks the start of a new series, which I would like to call Counter Narrative to Zakir Naik. Zakir Naik, as you might be knowing, is a very widely known preacher of Islam. He has often converted non-Muslims into Islam on camera by answering a few of their questions. He is so convincing in his presentation, in his argument, that some people have given up, abandoned their ancestral heritage, that is their religion, and adopted Islam, just on the sheer power of his answers. This series of mine, which starts with this video, will examine some of the arguments presented by Dr. Zakir Naik in his videos that are available publicly. Now, before I come to the main track, let me say that I have sometimes heard from Muslims that if you are not a Muslim, you have no right to comment on Islam. However, I beg to disagree with that point of view, because therefore I shall not give any quarter to anybody objecting to my commentary on Islam on grounds that I have not accepted Islam. That objection I overrule. Now, before I come to the main topic, let me define the methodology of my approach. Memorizing verses does not necessarily mean that you have understood verses. When we are in school, in the lower classes, in primary school, we used to memorize verses. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. But as we went to higher classes, to secondary school, we were taught to paraphrase. Paraphrasing proves whether you have understood the verses or not. You convert the verse into prose in your own words so that the teacher can assess whether you have just memorized the verses or whether you also understood it. The problem with just depending on verses is that for every verse or for many verses, you will find counter verses. Then which shall you choose? The Holy Quran itself says in verse number 22 of chapter 8 that you should use your akal, your brain. If you don't use your brain, you are the worst of beasts. So the Holy Quran gives us a method or a way to resolve any conflicting verses by using our brain. So I will depend a lot on this verse. I will use my brain. So our topic here is the heaven and hell theory in Islam. At one of Zakir Naik's events, whose video I watched on YouTube, a lady asked him that if a person is good, a good person, good in every way, but he is not a Muslim, will he reach paradise? Or will he go to hell? Something like that. These were not how exact words. This was a question. This was a purport of a question. Zakir Naik gave the example or the analogy of a school passing exam. He said there are a certain number of papers you have to pass or you have to sit for, And if you do very well in all the papers, in all the subjects, but you fail in one, will you have passed the exam? No, obviously not. So what he meant was that being a Muslim is one of the papers in which you must pass in order to qualify for paradise, about which there is profuse mention in the Holy Quran. Let's examine how correct Zakir Naik's answer is. Assume that I am still wrong. All that I have said so far is wrong. Assume that. And Zakir Naik is correct. Go further into this. Say I am dead now and Allah has sentenced me to hell because I am a Hindu. There goes the theory propounded by Zakir Naik and preachers like him that if you are not a Muslim, you are doomed to hell. And finally, there is one crowning verse in the Holy Quran, which reference appears here, which says, I hope I have made my point here.